Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the annual meeting, and I'll start our meeting with a guest speaker. I've known her for a long time. I used to be on the RC&D board, and she was the coordinator for that, and still is. And Michelle Turner of the DAR, Limestone Bluffs RC&D, and she will speak about Alethea Sherman. Althea, okay. See, I don't read well. So, anyway, let's give her a warm welcome.
Okay. Dun da da da! Althea Rosina Sherman, artist and ornithologist. She is an amazing woman. She became my hero, and I didn't even know about her. Of course, I'm not from Iowa, so you all should know about her. But I was working with the Cedar County Historical Society, and they said, hey, you know, we have Althea Sherman's tower. Would you do a program for us on her? And I was like, I don't know who she is. So I started doing some research, and oh my goodness, she is an inspiration to anybody over 50. She's an inspiration to women. She is just an amazing woman. And keep in mind, during this whole thing, she lived in the late, 1800s, early 1900s, when, women didn't have rights. They weren't equal to men like they are today. So let's talk about Althea. So her family came from New England. They started out in New York. Her father was a shoemaker, as was his father and grandfather. And when you read about their biographies, you think, oh, poor shoemaker, and he came to Iowa via Wisconsin so that he could be a farmer. So you're thinking, oh, they don't have so much money, Well, they get here, and he was quite the entrepreneur. So not only was he a shoemaker and a farmer, but he would lend people money. And by lending people money, he amassed quite a bit of money. So he decided that he was going to build a timber frame house. And this was the very first one, and this is out in Clayton County by Garnavillo National, Farmersburg. So this was in Farmersburg. So it's only like an hour and a half from here. And everybody was like, no, you shouldn't build it, Don't build on the prairie, the winds will blow you away. And don't build timber frame, you'll get blown away. And so this is in Althea's words describing what her father did. So he made a very strong house. So he thought, well, if it blows, it's going to stay together. It'll just kind of roll. And this is the first house, 1845, that the family lived in. They had 5 children, and eventually they all became very well known. Anybody in here ever hear of her? Has anybody ever heard of her? We don't do a good job of talking about our Iowa history. She was world-renowned. World-renowned, and still is ranked today as one of the leading female ornithologists in the world. So she went to Upper Iowa College to start with. Again, this is the 1800s, and she went to college as a woman. Her sisters, her brother, they all went to college. They started at Upper Iowa, and then she went on to Oberlin. Oberlin is in Ohio. This is the first college that allowed women and people of color to go to college. It was a very, very progressive college. And she majored in art. Well, she got her bachelor's in art, and then she went on for her master's. And then she studied at the Art Institute of Chicago. And then she studied in the Art Institute of New York. Think about traveling back in the 1800s, a woman alone traveling across the country and getting an education. That in itself is amazing. So, unfortunately, her parents got sick. So I'm kind of fast forwarding through her life. She went to college, she became a teacher and an artist. She taught in Minnesota, and then she became the art director for Tacoma, Washington. How do you even go from Iowa to Washington back in the 1800s, find a job, become an art director, become known for being a teacher and an artist? So by this time, she's in her 40s, and you know, people didn't live that long, and even today, you know, you start getting your 40s and 50s and you're thinking, well, you know, this is the end of the road for me and I'm going to retire soon. Her life just began. So she came home to take care of her parents. Now this is the second home that they built in National, and I was told it was pronounced National, not National. And if you go up Highway 52, you see the sign, National, Iowa. There's nothing there but a cemetery. But in 1866, they built this big home. And so this is the home that she and her sister lived in and took care of her parents until they died. So what did she do besides take care of her parents? She recreated herself. Now, when Bonnie asked me to do a talk, she asked, well, can you do something, you know, 250 related, something patriotic? Oh my goodness. She had an amazing lineage. Her grandparents, I mean, how many of us can say our grandfather has a statue? All of her grandparents had statues. And she was very proud of the fact that she was a DAR member and a Mayflower member. So we start with Roger Conant. He was the founder of Salem, Massachusetts. That was one of her grandfathers. Crazy. William Bradford. He came over on the Mayflower and was the governor of Massachusetts and the Mayflower colonies. Amazing. Roger Sherman. He was the only person to sign the Declaration, the Constitution, and the 2 Articles of Confederation. The only person to sign all 4. And then Aaron Kimball was a Minuteman, so there are statues to him. Her grandfather on her mother's side was the governor of New York. And then we can't forget her cousin, General Sherman of the Civil War. Holy smokes, what a lineage. So that in itself makes them an amazing family. And her father was very proud of this heritage, and he had a family Bible, and the family knew they were proud of their roots and they knew their roots. So now her parents have died, she's left with her sister in the house, and you think, oh, 2 old maids, you know, what are they going to do? Well, her sister was a doctor, a bona fide doctor on the prairie, and she would get in her white horse and buggy, and she would go all over eastern Iowa, around Clayton County and surrounding areas, and she was like the only doctor. She became very well known in her own right. Althea decided she was going to start studying birds because she drew, she was an artist, and she liked to draw birds. But that started her career in ornithology. The 2 sisters, by the way, were like 2 sides of the same coin. The doctor was very curmudgeonly and just, she could be very grumpy, whereas Althea was known as having, you know, a light heart, and if her sister was talking politics, she would change it to the weather and, oh, isn't it beautiful outside? But they said Althea would hold grudges. And I don't know if this is true, but when I moved to Iowa, somebody said, Iowa people hold grudges. Is that true? I don't know. But that's what it says in the book about Althea. And they were very, very well known for their dinners. They were proud of the fact that they came from New England, and they would put on big pot roast dinners with all their garden vegetables. They were proud of the fact that they could raise their own vegetables. And so people said they were the hosts with the most. They loved to go there. So she's an artist, she's a teacher, and now she becomes an ornithologist without any formal biology training other than classes that she took in school for art. She becomes a member of over 15 scientific societies, and this is not your local bird watchers groups. She had no time for people who looked at the little birdies. And I'll talk more about that later, but she was very scientific. In fact, she was one of the only women ever to be listed in the who's who of science men in the 1800s. So they had the who's who for men of science, and she got her name in there. Pretty impressive. So this is an example of some of her drawings, and she drew what she saw. And other artists said she was so exacting in what she drew, and she had a patience like you cannot believe. And so she would draw what she saw. She had no time for artists who drew something and expected you to interpret it. It didn't make sense to her. She would not have liked Picasso. If you see it, it should be that way. And you know, photography at the time had not been invented, or it was not mainstream yet. So if you wanted to see something exactly the way it was, you had to draw it that way. So these are a couple of flickers. And she knew that there were so many birds in her dooryard that other people would say, oh, well, we have to travel. She goes, no. If you would just stay in your own yard, you would be amazed at how many birds you see. So if any of you are good at apps, put the Merlin app on your phone if you like birds. It's free. You download it. You go outside, you hear the birdies singing, you press the button, and it gives you a list of all the birdies that are singing right there. I've had 27 different species in my yard in the morning. She had up to about 67 in her dooryard. And she was very specific in saying the dooryard, not the garden. If you go back to the origins of the word yard and garden, garden, they're the same word if you go back to the ancient language. So they're sometimes used interchangeably. And we know that we have a backyard, the stockyard, the chicken yard, the side yard. You know, we use yard a lot. Well, somebody wrote an article about her and said that she had all these birds in her garden. Oh, she made them correct it. It was the dooryard. It was the yard around the house. It wasn't, you know, the stockyard or any other part. So she was very, very, very specific. So when they moved into the prairie at the time, when she was little, there was nothing there. There were no shrubs, there were no trees, it was just prairie. As settlers came in and they brought their plants with them, she noticed all of the different types of bushes and trees that were now starting to grow. So she lists, you know, the plums, the raspberries, the gooseberries, all of these things moved in with the settlers. Before then, she noticed there were very few birds. And in her lifetime, she saw the blue jays come in. She saw the cardinals come in. And we take those for granted. We see them every day. And they weren't here before. You know, they moved with the plants. And then she said, you know, they eat the berries, they poop them out, they grow, and the birds now create their own environments after the people have gone. So the little town of Farmersburg, it wasn't there very long, and it disappeared. And so then they moved to Lake National, but again, that disappeared. All those little towns disappeared when the railroads moved to different areas, and they changed her mailing address to Marquette. and she was just livid. She made everybody who sent her a letter, they had to put her original address on it. If they put her name and put Marquette on it, she'd send it back. She held a grudge that way. So anyway, she made observations every single day. There are over 600 journals of hers. Can you imagine every day now she was almost 50, and she lived to be almost 90, so for like 40 years, every single day for 40 years, she kept journals. And they were so detailed that she laid the groundwork for people like Jane Goodall for observational biology. She was the first to do really, really intense detail. She would sometimes spend 16 hours a day just sitting and watching the birds and writing everything down. Her specialty was nesting birds. That was what she loved. She wanted to know, when the males came in, and she would keep track. Oh, the male blue jay came in on this date, and the female came in a week later, and he spent time looking for a nest. And she did this with all of the birds in her dooryard. And then she started naming them because she could recognize them. And some came back year after year after year. She noticed which ones used the same nest year after year after year. She wanted to know, well, how big should the hole be if you make a bird box? What should it be made out of? What color should it be made out of? What location? The south side, the north side? Are they going to stay in a cluster like martins? Do they have territories? And one of the things she found out, if you put up too many bird houses, the birds spend so much time fighting, they don't nest. So, people think, oh, I'm doing you a favor, I'm giving you all little houses. Well, then they spend time fighting over territory and don't actually have babies. So that was one of the things that, she thought was pretty neat. She noticed what they were fed, how many times. I mean, she would count, oh, this bird visited the nest 79 times, and it brought, caterpillars or beetles or worms, whatever. She was amazing with her exactness. So these are some young phoebes at roost, and I have to read this from her book. It's just, it just makes me laugh, and you might think it's kind of gross. So the poor phoebes, they tend to get lice. A lot of birds most birds get lice. So she says many years ago, Dr. Kellogg gave 264 as the number of species of lice to infest birds. By this time, his list may have been augmented by several new discoveries. Whatever the number, it sometimes seems as if the phoebe must be affected by all of them at once. So, daily, the young had been taken from the nest for weighing and observations. So she would actually take babies out of the nest every day and weigh them. Just amazing. Well, on the second day after the vermin appeared on these poor little babies, my sister picked 118 lice off of a little phoebe that weighed 100 grams. Okay, so its entire body scarcely equaled half the size of the tip of one's thumb. 118 lice picked off. Who has that kind of patience? Oh my goodness. How many of us would do that? Probably none, right? And they would pick them off and they'd put them back in there. Well, the lice just became something that they were trying to get rid of. So they would treat the nests. At first, they thought, well, we'll use boiling water. Well, boiling water on a nest destroys the nest. So they decided, okay, well, we can't do that. So they were using sulfur powder. They were lining the nests with hair, and then they would take it out and iron it, and then they would put it back. I mean, the two sisters together working to keep every little baby alive was just insane, just intense. Of all the birds, she thought woodpeckers were her favorite because they had a jolly, cheerful sound. So this is another one of her drawings. And another one, the catbird on the nest. She didn't do a lot of color. She did a lot of sketching. And the brown thrashers. And a lot of these are in her museum in Garnavillo. If you go up there, you could see some more of these. So, winter feeding. How many of you feed birds or put out bird feeders? What do? Go to Walmart? Buy what's on sale? For a dozen years, she experimented to find what's the perfect feed for these birds. So you can take a picture of this. This is the perfect winter meal. Cornmeal, cracklings or suet, walnuts, corn syrup, mush it all together, and then put it on a corrugated cardboard because it would stick to corrugated cardboard. And she said the cardboard had to be hung upside down because then the woodpeckers and the flickers could eat it, but those stinking wrens and those stinking swans, you know, all those other birds that she didn't like, the sparrows, she said they can't hang upside down. So she said use this and then hang it upside down. Well, she had an actual war against birds. There are some birds that are just bad birds. So for several years, she'd been killing all the screech owls she could find in the neighborhood. I paid 50 cents a piece for them. Do you know what 50 cents would have been? It's the equivalent of $18 today. Can you imagine having that kind of money? Well, she was very loosey-goosey with her money. Her sister was like a skinflint, and she just frowned on the fact that she threw her money everywhere. But yeah, that's the equivalent of $18 she would give to the neighborhood boys if they came and gave her, you know, the dead birds. For 26 years I've watched these owls. I know they're evil. I mean, they eat the other birdies. Another bird upon which I made war is the bronzed grackle. And of course that's an import, so that wasn't even found in the early days, but then it started coming in with the starlings and, you know, a lot of these imported birds. And she paid upward of $12 for dead grackles at 15 cents each. Wow. I mean, the neighborhood boys must have loved her. And we'll talk about the Jenny Wren in a little while. How many people have a Jenny Wren house? Yeah, you're going to hate me at the end of this. So, here she is, she's looking at her birds, she's writing articles, and these articles are going to big ornithology, Audubon, scientific journals around the world. Well, in 1913, she takes a trip by herself to 20 countries. She went 33,000 miles, a woman by herself in 1913. It is amazing. She went to Europe, Asia, Africa, and all of these things, Palestine, Greece, these are all articles that she wrote while she was there, all about the different birds that she saw. So she's published worldwide. Since the crocodile still survives, and this is her quote, in the upper reaches of the Nile, they're offered the brilliant opportunity for the ambitious young man with the camera, which, why didn't she say woman? because she was an amazing woman, but she's still like a man with a camera, to secure us moving pictures of plovers cleaning the teeth of the crocodile. She saw it with her own eyes, and she said, it's important because there's still skepticism, because John Lee, he's also an ornithologist, he verified, he said, yes, the plovers do clean the teeth of the crocodiles. She saw it, she verified it. To this day, if you look it up, it won't say that they definitely do. I mean, really, after 100 years, we can't prove that they're sitting there cleaning their teeth? But, you know, she was a woman ahead of her time. So she takes this grand tour. Well, what happens in 1914? World War I, right? So she had to come home. She was going to stay on the road, traveling in the world and seeing birds, but the war came and she had to go home. I love this quote. This shows how her mind was always thinking. I mean, she painted with words. So they're in Palestine. We passed within sight of structure to mark the birthplace of Samson. Whatever shortcomings this ancient athlete displayed in his escapades before his hair was cut, he evinced good judgment in two respects. He chose Ramon-Lee as a site that would be in full view of a future railway, and in slaying 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass, he did not muss up a spot valuable for agriculture. Her book is so easy to read, and you know, you think it's just all about birds, and it is, but her comments, her visions were just so entertaining. She was asked to be a speaker at all of these conventions, all of these societies, because of her wit, because of her humor, and she took no nonsense. She knew she was right, and there was no arguing with her. So this is really what she's famous for in Iowa. Have any of you traveled up Highway 52 and seen this tower? If you've gone up to Prairie du Chien, to Cabela's, or if you've gone up 52 past Garnavillo, you've seen it. It's right along the cemetery, and you probably thought, huh, what is that? Because I myself have driven by it for 24 years, and every time I went by, I was like, huh, I wonder what that is. And it's just it's right by the cemetery. So she invented this. This is the Chimney Swift Tower, and she designed it. She wanted to observe chimney swifts. Well, how do you do that if they're in the chimney? So she designed a chimney with a spiral staircase and windows and shades and mirrors. So she could go in there at night with a light and have cloth blocking the light so as not to disturb the birds. She had mirrors so that she could see without sticking her head in there. She had the windows so she could reach in and grab the babies and weigh them and put them back. I mean, it was amazing. So it sat there in National for years and years and years, and then it came in disrepair, so they took it down. And then it sat in a shed for years and years. Well, then the Cedar County Historical Society got it, and they restored it, and it is sitting on their property in Cedar County. And they have a live webcam in there. So you can go to Cedar County Historical Society, look at Althea Sherman's live webcam, and actually see the chimney swifts in there. So they built another one, a replica, to replace the one on Highway 52. So there's two places where you can actually see this. And people came from all around to have tours, and she loved educating people and talking about the birds. So she would bring people here, and especially children groups. And I love her quote. Although my chimney was placed without a very full knowledge of chimney swift life, after many years of use and observations, I have failed to see how any improvements could have been made. just patting herself on the back. She did a heck of a job designing that. So here's just one example of her ledger. So she would have the date first seen. So 1916, 1917, 1918, the date of that one specific bird. First seen May 12th, last seen September 6th. And then she added up, you know, it was here, spent 117 days here. And she, well, this is for chimney swifts, but she did this with all the birds. As a person who taught biology for years, it just astounds me that someone would have the patience and to do this for 40 years. Not only did she study birds, but she became very well known for some of her animal studies, especially bats. And again, look at her words. She's explaining a bat, and we're like going, ah, you know, we don't want to look at it. And she said to gain access, the bat is obliged to walk down the shutters, and as it moved downward, it suggested very forcibly the trailing silken garments of a grand lady of former days as she walked down a flight of stairs. Wow, how flowery, how beautiful can you make a bat sound? Isn't it amazing? So, the goldenrod, or the goldfinch, is the Iowa state bird, and it is the state bird because of Althea. This is her painting, and because of this painting, Iowa decided, oh, we love that painting, and that's a great bird. That should be our state bird. So I know you've probably seen that picture before and just didn't know the backstory. So, coming to the end of her life, she had written in her will that someone, well, she was hoping that her farm would become a bird sanctuary. And if it didn't become a bird sanctuary, it would go to the state. Somehow relatives got a hold of it and bulldozed the whole thing. I know, sad story. But in her will, she specifically wrote, "No screech owls or house wrens allowed," because they were bad birds. And then, why is there a dedicated bird day? Well, one of the senators at the time had a little girl, and the little girl loved birds, and she says, "Oh, Daddy, we should have an official bird day." So he's, yeah, so he goes to the Iowa Senate, and I don't know how that works, but they make an official Iowa Bird Day. Well, she was like, that's ridiculous. Every day should be bird day. Every day should be cat day, dog day, horse day, deer day. Why would you take one day? She thought it was just ridiculous. Well, she knew the man, and the man knew her, and he did not tell her that it was his daughter's idea and that he pushed it through, because then she would never speak to him again. So she appeared as a speaker at the American Ornithologist Union, the Wilson Ornithologist Club, and all of these clubs are still going now. Again, she had no time for the people who liked the little birdies just because they were cute little birdies, because they didn't understand how evil they were. Her mannerisms, her charming personality, her pungent wit, this made her an attraction. So if she was speaking, people would go. And those who met her and heard her never forgot her. Arthur Pallas was a friend of hers, and he worked on her book. She died before she could finish her book. So he and another man went through, and I have to give them kudos. How do you glean from 600 manuals? How do you glean something to put in a book? I mean, technically they could have written 10 books, but to condense it so that you have an idea of how wonderful she was, what she did, just astounding. So with the War Against the Birds. She actually wrote many articles. And this is her article. It's a little long, but I won't read it all. So she wrote this. If, when a felon is on trial for high crimes and misdemeanors, he is confronted by numerous eyewitnesses who are trustworthy and fully competent to testify, if by their evidence it is proved that for upward of 25 years he has been seen committing the most flagrant crimes against his neighbors, if the depositions of these expert witnesses have been spread upon the public record and printed in volumes accessible to everyone, it would appear that the public ought to demand for the good of our country that the felon be sentenced and that sentence be execution. And she's talking about the little Jenny Wren. In the case of the people of North America versus the house wren, together with his subspecies, the western house wren, the eyewitnesses of his crimes are numerous, trustworthy, and exceedingly competent. Among them are men who rank our most eminent ornithologists, men whose professional business during many years has to carefully study these birds. Besides, there are many other men and women less famous but equally trustworthy. So, in this prosecution, the public must be jury, judge, and executioner. And most unfortunately, the large part of the public is unfit to act in any of these jurymen, because they have already formed an opinion, and this opinion is not based on any real knowledge other than having a wren box on their village square. So, the people that like the little birdies, you know, you love the little Jenny Wrens, they're vicious. You don't know it, but they're going around stabbing the eggs of all the other birds. They are murderers. They are murderers.
Wow.
That's why she would not have a wren house on her property, because they blatantly just go into a nest, stab it, and, you know, I always wondered why I was finding, you know, like robin eggs and other eggs laying around. It's because little Jenny Wren is just in there. You know, she's cute, she's singing, and she's killing. So she did not want that Jenny Wren. So her book is Birds of an Iowa Dooryard, and I had a hard time getting a copy because it's been out of print for so many years. Marquette Library has a copy of it, and you can get some older used copies online. But if you like birds, it's a great book to read, because you're getting to know her so intimately. She just doesn't give you the facts. She gives her opinions, she names them, and some of the other funny things that she does is she tracks the concubines of some of the males. She's like, okay, this male Robin, he's got a girlfriend on the side. You know, she tracks the concubine, and she uses, you know, terminology that we don't use today or might be offensive, but it's a good read. Or just go online. A lot of her book is online, and her history. But an amazing woman, somebody that we should all look up to as a person from Iowa. And the fact that even today, I think she's ranked number 7 in Australia, still as number 7 ornithologist for women. So, well known in the ornithology circles. And now you know about her. And if you go up Highway 52, stop in, you can look at the Swift Tower, there's an interpretive sign there, or You can go online and look at the one in Cedar County, and once in a while Cedar County has field days where you can go out to the Bickford farm and actually see it. So anyway, that's Althea Sherman, an amazing Iowa woman.
I learned a lot. Thanks very much, Michelle. Also, thank you for your work with the Historical Society doing brown bag lunches and for honoring the veterans over in Andrew Cemetery on Memorial Day, and your wonderful program today.
Well, thank you.
So at this time, I don't know how we go about quorum call, but we're going to say we have a quorum. And did they get copies of the minutes and the treasury reports? Did everybody get a copy of those?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Now it says remarks for our president. And the first thing I want to do is introduce our board members. John Huff, and if you'd stand. Dick Kunow, Dan Martin, John Płowski, Mary Cregan, Nancy Johnson, Wayne Leonard, Deb Holm, Bill Schwanker, who's currently serving as vice president, and myself, Jack Willey. Give them a hand. Now I'm going to have Bill Schwanker come up here.
All right.
Yep. Come up here. It says we're supposed to make some remarks about different things that have been done. And could you give them an update on the lime kilns?
Okay. Well, honestly, not a lot has changed since last year. Basically, we do a lot of grounds maintenance. You know, mowing, trimming, picking up branches, down trees. Just the other day, there's 2 big branches or parts of trees that came down that had to be cleaned up. With all the rain we've had, grass seed that we planted the last couple of years and this year, everything is green as I've ever seen it out there. So that's a good thing. A lot of places that were bare before are filling in very nice with green grass. It looks good out there. I think Nancy Flagle's done a great job with, Nancy with the flowers and everything. She's cut back. She's taken out some of the flowers she's had planted before, and we put some wood chips down where those flowers and stuff have been. So she's cut back, but when you see her out there, you go up to her and say, Nancy, no, you're not overdoing it. And she says, no, I'm fine. I got my water, I got my chair, I got my table. I'm good to go. So anyway, we're still trying to get, Bob Sheets has been working on this, a rail cart that we could put up top where that walking bridge is, and there's that, I guess the berm, or what you want to call it, where the rail cars would have been years ago hauling the rock. We're trying to get an ore cart there. And Jess Cram, where's Jess from? What? PMW. He's the one that Bob's been talking to, and he's been interested in making a cart, putting something together. So we'll see how that goes. Bonnie Mitchell, and I think Bob Sheets, and Robert Abbott been working on some signage to put on the shelter that Kiwanis has repainted for us here a couple years ago. So that's in the works. Put up a big mural out there to kind of show you what it used to look like at the lime kilns in Hurstville. I don't think there's anybody else that's been out there have any comments, anything you want to add?
I've noticed that there's a lot of traffic there, Lana. Like this morning, there was like, I counted 10 cars and they all had people in there and they were going up to the kilns and stuff.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm always seeing a lot more increased traffic.
Yeah.
I'm always back and forth into town, and I always cut across that way, and I see it, so.
I've seen the same thing. Since school stopped especially, we're seeing an uptick in traffic. Whenever I see people down there, unless I'm going to do a meeting like this, which is the case tonight, I stop. I see how things go, answer the questions and stuff like that. I love it when there's like sixth graders, because they get a kick out of where this was and what it did and how this area was 100 to 150 years ago. So it's pretty cool.
My grandson can relate to that. As you recall, we were out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he remembers that. He's mentioned that more than once
Really?
about that when we went out. He found a little, I think it's a little shell, round shell, and he planted it in that well, between the south kiln and the next one to it. He made a comment that he's going to be in sixth grade. This is a year or so ago. He made a comment that wall there reminded him of the mountains, because you got that grayish, brownish wall, and you got like the white lines, and to him they looked like mountains. So, just that's a 10-year-old mentioning stuff like that. But anyway, we're keeping it up, cleaned up out there and everything, and it's nice, like Mary and Terry said, to see people out there. There's been graduation pictures, wedding pictures over the years, and here recently the same. I ran into somebody that said they hadn't been out there in a while. The last time they were there was when they had their wedding picture taken. So, anyway, that's all I got.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
He does a great job out there, making sure everything's... Okay, next item is the new building, an addition to the Papke building, and that will be housing some additional Clinton Engine information, and it will be open in the not too distant future. So that's a thing. And then on June 6th was the garden party. We had planned to have our soiree at Squires Manor on the 6th of June, and that kind of got changed a little bit. And so the Abbotts did host a garden party with their daughter's band from Northwestern playing at it. It was a lovely event, a beautiful night, and the music was excellent. The wine, they say, was pretty good. I'm not a wine drinker, but I did get to look at some of the hors d'oeuvres, and they were very nicely done. And it was a really good evening. We were talking about, as we were planning this, we were meeting every Wednesday, planning the event. And I think it was John Huff says, well, what are we going to do if it rains? We said, well, it didn't the last time we had a party there. So we'll just keep praying that it doesn't rain this time. And of course, it was a perfect night, just like it was when we had an event there before. We are planning some events. We did sell some tickets for the soiree. And I think anyone that got or purchased a ticket has gotten a letter from Bonnie saying how they can utilize that ticket for two of our events, the muster meal and then for the Heritage Day dinner. So those will be honored at those. And and Bonnie said in the letter, if there's a conflict, you can contact the museum and they will give you a refund for that. I guess my wife keeps saying, how long have you been president? How long are you going to be president? And I says, well, I really absolutely can't tell you how long, but I took Dave Stockham's place when he was president, and then he went off the board. So I would say that it's been quite a while, and I enjoy it. I will say that, and we tell anybody that's looking at the possibility of being on our board, that it is definitely a working board. People ask me, how many boards do you serve on since you're not on the Board of Supervisors anymore? And I'll tell them a few of them, but I said the one that really keeps us busy is Bonnie Mitchell at the at the Historical Society, but nobody works harder than Bonnie Mitchell. She's just wonderful. I don't know how she does it all. Thank God she has a good daughter-in-law that helps secretary down here. But it's a big job. Lots and lots of things going on. And with that, I'm going to tell you that we are going to introduce 4 new board members to our board. Terry Cregan, Tom Gray, Fred Rickens, and Ray Scott are and would you guys please stand up? And one we have lost, who has done a great job and will continue for a little while, is Deb Holmes. Would you please stand in? She's done so much for the muster on Maquoketa. It's just amazing. Great job, Deb. Okay, now it says comments from any of the members. Anybody from the membership that's here tonight have any comments they'd like to make, other than, where's the air conditioner? I guess. Yes, John.
I just want to acknowledge the fact that the loss of board member Kevin.
Oh, I was going to do that too.
Such a loss. Not just personally, but for the organization, the involvement he had with it, well, with everything. So it's not easy to generate that kind of a board member, but we were fortunate all the years we had.
Yes, Kevin Brown was a godsend, and we certainly do miss him. I have this that I'm going to send around that Bonnie gave me. And it is for fair volunteers. If you have a little time during the fair and can work at one of these different places that are on this, please feel free to sign up, and we'll certainly put you to good use. And this was pretty interesting to me. I didn't have, and she's back in the office now. Sue Mayberry keeps track of volunteer hours that we have. And somebody want to guess how many volunteer hours we had this last year? No guesses, huh? We had 11,921 hours of people donating their time. And I'm sure that's not the total amount, because she said, I don't know if I got it all. But this is what she gave us when she came tonight. So give yourself a round of applause for that. And now I'm supposed to turn to my page that's got upcoming events. Maybe. Of course, the Muster of Maquoketa is next. I don't know how we had time to do all this in May. May 1st was the program for Onward Women Luncheon. The 5th was Ray Scott Brown Bag Lunch. May 6th, meeting on the 250th. May 6th, meeting on Squires Manor Committee. May 7th, muster meeting. May 11th, Jackson County Historical Society meeting. Brown Bag Lunch with Sue Mayberry. Jackson County Historical Society Board meeting, program for Rotary, Bonnie and Rose, muster meeting, Andrew Cemetery meeting, Clinton Engines rent for party, meeting with Jackson FJC, I don't know what that is.
Jackson County Historic Preservation?
Pardon?
Is it Jackson County Historic Preservation?
It could be. Bonnie did a CAMAQ Just Talk, meeting at Squires Manor Committee, muster meeting, annual air vapor testing, 250th memorial at Andrew Cemetery, and it was absolutely wonderful. Big crowd there, and it was neat to go out into the cemetery and see the veterans' graves there, and they really did a nice job. Cottonville Brown Bag Lunch by Don Wentworth. Paul Pitcher is working on helping us work on the Clinton Engines warehouse, and ECIA is going to be having a program in the not too distant future at Brown Bag, and then they're going to have another meeting. They are coming up with plans of what to do over in the Prairie area, and Bonnie has seen it, and she says it's absolutely fabulous. And I think at our next board meeting we're having that.
Yes.
She's going to come and give us a slideshow of what's going to happen over there. And that's all I have.
I just want to take a couple seconds. We had the opportunity here a few days ago, a week ago, to be in the parade up in Bellevue. That would not have happened if it wasn't for the extraordinary effort by one individual. Dan, the float, we got so many comments about it in terms of its structure, how it showed off what we wanted it to show off, and so on and so forth. It was great. It was really good. And he was just so creative with that thing. So
I have to tell you, I was there making funnel cakes, and when your parade was coming along, your float was coming along, the MC said, "Here comes the Jackson County Historical Society float." I don't know how that guy can stand being there with that wool suit on.
I didn't have it as bad. Him and his wife were running their tail off.
But it was funny.
Yes, it was great.
Boy, he's got to be suffering with that wool suit on.
Yeah, but he was wearing one too.
Yes.
Yeah, he was wearing one too. So I just wanted to recognize his extraordinary effort.
Well, let's give him a round of applause. My understanding from what we've been talking about at meetings is it seems like maybe we're going to have the Halloween house again. Was very successful last year. I had no idea what it would be like when I walked in the door, and with all the screens and all of this stuff, it was absolutely amazing. And this one little girl, she came out and she was just crying and crying, and she went over to where they were serving the food. Her dad and mom took her over there, and one of the guys that was dressed up and was pretty scary came out, and he said, "Where'd that little girl go?" And I says, "Well, she went over there with her mom and dad." So he took off his mask and he went over, and I'm not even sure who it was, but he went over to talk to the little girl to let her know that this wasn't real. This was a make-believe. And it was really, and then she came back over with her parents and said, "Thank you so much." She really appreciated knowing he wasn't really a monster. And Dan, would you stand up, please? And your Ray. We just want to thank you for everything that you do for the Historical Society. The support that you give us is very, very, very needed and appreciated. We want you to know that. Is there any other business to come before our meeting tonight? Anything you can think of, Bonnie, that we haven't covered?
Just our upcoming program about the American Revolution. I have it.
Okay.
I have it.
Is it on this list?
I have it. She
Oh,
has it.
okay. Okay, you come
Are
up
you
and give
ready?
it. Yeah.
Okay, this will just take a minute. So I'm sorry that Michelle left, but I just would like everybody to know that working with Michelle, with the Daughters of the American Revolution on our 250th activities has been wonderful. It's been a really great partnership. And as was said, she does wonderful programs, she does brought back lunches, she's just been so very helpful. But because of the DAR, there's something going around the country, something called the American Revolution Experience. And it's a traveling exhibit, and it was done by the American Battlefield Trust and the National Daughters of the American Revolution. Like I say, it's a traveling exhibit that's going all around the country. In order to have it come to your place, you have to have a very active DAR association, chapter, I guess, and you have to have a historic society or a library that has a place where you can have this exhibit. And so we've teamed up, and this is coming. I want you to know, this is pretty special, I think. This is one of the few places in Iowa where you will be able to go to see this exhibit. It's almost a $20,000 exhibit. There are 12, I don't know what they call them, banners, that pull out, that talk about the American Revolution. There are 3 interactive stations where you can go to and learn all kinds of things about the Revolutionary War. And so we're going to be very proud to have that. It's going to be here. I hope we have an air conditioner, or it's cold, it's cooler in September. It'll be right after the muster. It will be September 16th through 24th. Where it'll be free to the public. We hope that you will come. We hope that you will bring your children, your grandchildren, and teach them about our wonderful American history. It's going to be a great opportunity for us. We're going to need lots of volunteers to help, just to be around to be sure that everything stays safe. I mean, this is quite a commitment, but you'll be hearing a lot more about this as time goes along. But just put that on your calendar. Make it a priority to come and visit that. Okay, that's all I have to say.
And Nancy, do you want to say anything about your mini garage sale that you're going to have?
Well, we're gonna have one, and Mary can talk. It's just a mini garage sale, Mary, and, well,
Yeah.
it's 17th and 18th, all day, both days.
It will be from 7 until 6 on Friday, and then
It's pretty loose.
then 7 until it's either noon or 1 on Saturday. And I was over there today, and some people brought some cool stuff in, so we have some new stuff over there. So
Oh, cool.
I suggest you just take a visit.
Is it Beach Asperger?
No, we're not going to do that. No.
Yeah.
No.
And, I would like to add,
Bonnie?
I would like to add thank you to everyone who helped with that garage sale, because we had the best year I think we've ever had, and thank you to Bonnie's
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
cousin.
The donor of all the really interesting little things, the birds and the chickens and the,
Yeah, there was some fun stuff, so.
there was fun things.
So thank you to everyone who did that. It was a huge success, and we've got to keep trying to duplicate that.
Yeah.
And we will do our best.
It was wonderful.
Thank you very much. Anything else, Bonnie? But come here.
Oh, that's always dangerous.
No, I'm not going to do it. I just need to have,
Okay.
and have you answer a question.
Okay.
I just had to make sure of this. Eric Peterson, would you please stand up?
What? What did I do now?
It is what you did. Eric is working a little bit part-time at the museum, doing a marvelous job, assisting Bonnie whenever he can, And we really are so happy to have you working for the museum. And thank you very much, and let's give Eric a round of applause.
Jack and Kathy Bailey.
Oh, and Kathy Bailey.
They're
Oh
cohorts.
my God.
Yeah.
They're cohorts.
You come with a package.
That's right, they're a package.
I mean, every
They have
time,
librarian
it seems like
brains.
every time I come to talk to Bonnie, Kathy's here, so I get to see her.
They have
And she's-
librarian brains.
And she's gonna work for the, babysit the museums for the weekends, I have the month of July. And so, those that said yes, thank you. And with that, there are refreshments back there. We will delay our board meeting for a few minutes, but then we'll meet in the back room for our board meeting. So thank you very much for coming. I hope you learned something tonight, and meeting's adjourned.